This question is from Coerced.
Oh.
It says, I am on step 4, and it's feeling like this may take many months, if not a year, just to save that 3 months reserve. Is this normal for most people? And am I missing something?
Well, is it normal that it's difficult to save up an emergency fund? Yes, it's hard because you have to live in this world of discipline where you're willing to sacrifice a little bit of today so that you can have more security tomorrow. That's what the emergency fund is all about, security. And so when I think through the practical mathematics of, all right, it looks like it's going to take me a while to build up 3 months of expenses, that could mean a few different things. And what it most likely means is there's not a ton of margin in your system. What that means is with where your income is and where your expenses are likely pretty tight, meaning there's not a whole lot left over to be able to build up that emergency fund. And if that's the case, then it is worthwhile for you to put in the time to build up that emergency fund if you have expenses that are high enough that if your income were to go away, you'd be in a bad spot, a tight spot. So while it's difficult, I'm going to argue that it's incredibly necessary. So what are some things that you could do to maybe help that? Well, there's really only two. How can I get my expenses down so that 3 to 6 months of expenses is actually leaner than the way that I'm living right now? Or how do I get my income up? How do I increase my income so that all that increased income can go to building up that emergency fund so that I can get through step 5 as quickly as possible? I think those are really the only two options.
Yeah, but there's still some work. Let's put some meat on that turkey leg. Here's the thing. A lot of people, I'm surprised when I ask them, what's your monthly burn rate? Because that's the first question. We really need to know, what are you expending? What are the must things that no matter what happens, you're going to have to write a check for it, or I know I sound like an old man when I say write a check. Well, you're going to have to pay the bill no matter what happens. Well, I'm always surprised at how many people can't tell me what their monthly living expenses are. So, and that's not just a conviction, or it's to people who are just struggling. This is to people who are successful as well. So make sure you've actually spend some time figuring out what your budget, what your expenses are in that moment of need, and then don't skip out on how many months you need to cover, because there's a broad range. You can't just say I need 6 months of emergency reserves. Actually do the exercise. And that's one of the things we tried to spend some time in Millionaire Mission on, is what does 3 to 6 months actually mean? Because there's different versions for different people. We're all unique. We all have different fingerprints. We all are looking, and our personal finance needs are very personal. So don't skip those 2 steps. But I think, yes, if you get through doing that research on what are your true expenses, and then you figure out, hey, I'm closer to 4 months or 5 months, I've done that exercise, and you're finding out that it's still going to take time, that's okay, because what we're trying to protect you from is the scary things that could happen if you had an emergency. And also, I think Bo is hitting on a point, though. If it takes you a full year to build up 3 to 6 months, then that means really go figure out, what do my expenses look like? Because that means maybe your expenses compared to your income might be tippity top right next to each other, and there's not a lot of margin in between. So go back and look at those expenses, or figure out if there's something you can do to juice up or hit the accelerator on that income side of things.